Hey, community group members, Pastor Matt again. You are now in your fourth week and the third and final foundational week for us as we've been talking about what the basis and foundation of the community that you'll be experiencing over this next year is based on. We started out looking at our DNA and our beliefs as a church. Last week, we talked about heart attitude 1 through 4. This week, we're going to take a look at the last three heart attitudes. That's heart attitude number 5, 6, and 7. And when we ended our video last week, we looked at the progression of those first 4 heart attitudes. And really, what we're going to look at now, it builds on that progression as well. So just like last week, I want to make a few introductory comments to each of these 3 heart attitudes we're going to look at this week. Then I want to talk about the sequence, and then you're going to have some discussion that your group leader will lead you in. So let's look at heart attitude number 5. Heart attitude number 5 is participate in the ministry. And really, the issue with this heart attitude is we all have a role to play. And God has gifted followers of Jesus with at least one spiritual gift. If you are a follower of Jesus, you have a spiritual gift that you've been given not for yourself, but for the larger body of believers, for the church. And there are a lot of things that we need to do as a part of our mission. So we're actually called and gifted to be a part of the ministry, to participate in ministry. Another way of looking at this is we also have the responsibility to pull our own weight, to do something to help the mission advance. So for some, in some seasons of life, this looks like helping out in kids ministry. When you've got kids in kids ministry, that's a great time to help out in the kids ministry. So whatever it may be, there is a role and there is an opportunity for each and every one of us. And this heart attitude, participate in the ministry, it helps us be a part of what's going. So that's number 5. Number 6 is support the work financially. And it's very similar to heart attitude number 5 in that we all have an opportunity to support the work financially. Now I realize we're all in different places financially. We have different jobs. We have different financial situations. But one of the things that we find throughout the scripture is that God's people are the ones who fund God's mission. So we have an opportunity to cooperate together to move the mission forward as we give financially. So we can participate in ministry, then we also can support the work financially. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, we teach tithing here at Hope Church. That's our scriptural stance on it, but we don't require tithing. So I would just invite you to consider wherever you're at on the generosity ladder. And if you're not on the ladder, then get on the generosity ladder and just give it a try and take steps as you feel comfortable. At the end of the day, God is really after our hearts, not our wallets. But our wallets are a great way to get a hold of our hearts. In fact, Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So it's not about the money. It's about wholeheartedly following God. And then heart attitude number 7 is follow spiritual leadership within scriptural limits. And the idea behind this is that be easily persuaded. Be easily yielded. Now, it's okay to ask questions at the right time, but what that means is don't make it a pain for the leaders above you. We all have ideas and opinions and preferences, and when your leader says, this is what we're going to do, this is where we're going to go, if it's not out of bounds scripturally, then this is a way that we can just participate by following our leaders. You know, a great picture for me when I was first learning this heart attitude, follow spiritual leaders within scriptural limits, is that of when you're taking a walk, you're moving in the same direction. If you and your leader are naturally moving in the same direction, you're walking side by side. You're not actually following because you're moving in the same direction. But when a leader says, this is the direction we're going to go, and you say, wait a minute, I think we should go this way. It's at that point that when your leader's not calling you to do something out of scriptural bounds, but rather this is the direction God's leading, this is the point when the leader goes this way, that we can choose to go our own way, or we can choose to follow our leaders within scriptural limits. Now, I want to be clear. We never follow a leader to do something outside of scriptural limits. If a group leader or a staff member or myself, if I ever was to lead the church outside the bounds of Scripture, well, then that's a time that you shouldn't follow. Because as individual followers of Jesus, we've got to follow him first, and human leaders after that. But God works through leaders. God works through authority. And there's great blessing to the followers when they follow spiritual leaders within scriptural limits. So I want to take just a moment now, again, like we did last week, and look at this progression that we have. How heart attitude number 5 actually builds on the first 4. So as we think about that, here's how that works. Now, heart attitude number 1, we're looking to the goals and interests of others. And this helps us because we're looking for the goals and interests of the broader group. There's a major reason why we participate in the ministry is because we have the capacity and the gifting to do good to the larger group. Therefore, we want to participate in that ministry. This also sets limits on what we call ministry. I don't simply minister without any regard to the impact of others. We've got to do what's a help and not a hindrance. See, as leaders welcome new people in, they're finding ways to include them, to participate in a way that helps the overall goals and the overall mission of the church. And this is enabled by heart attitude number 2, because when we have a commitment to openness and honesty, those who are responsible for directing the ministry have the responsibility to be open and honest with those that they're leading and they're incorporating. See, leaders, they can direct people to move in different directions, but they're not going to direct them to go in a way they're not willing to go themselves. They're being open and honest about what they're doing. And a commitment to correction, heart attitude number 3, this gives leaders the right to help those who are just starting out, those who are just learning. Because like any area of life, when we start doing something new, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to do it. So we want to help people. We want to help them see how they can best do the ministry and help what the larger goals are. So this sets the stage to be able to have corrective conversations in the context of your team. And then as we move to heart attitude number 4, there's this commitment of clearing up relationships. And because we have this commitment to clear up relationships, if there are unforeseen problems that come up, if in the process of doing ministry together and perhaps being corrected and help to know how to do that ministry in a more effective and a more efficient way, we have a vehicle to clear things up. Then we move to heart attitude number 6, support the work financially. Again, we go all the way back to heart attitude number 1, that we're looking to the goals and interests to help everyone out. Everything that the church does costs money. It costs money to have the lights on. It costs money to have the utilities. It costs money to do every aspect of ministry that there is. And as people are looking to be involved, we ask them not just to participate, but also to participate financially. But notice number 6 comes after number 5. You see, we're interested in participation. We're interested in people getting involved at a hands-on level, not just financial support. And if we address the financial support first, then people might think that's all we're after. And they might think that, well, I don't have to do anything. I can just give. But see, scripturally, we're called to do both. We're called to participate with our hands and our feet, and we're called to be good stewards of the financial resources that we have and to give to support the work of God. And then heart attitude number 7 is last intentionally. It gives followers really confidence that it is last. You see, leaders, your group leader, team leaders, the staff members, myself, we're all bound to the heart attitudes as well. And leaders give their followers permission to correct them if they go out of bounds. So it works like this. You've got heart attitude number 1. The leader is actually looking at the goals and interests of the larger group. They're not just focused on their own. And when they're open and honest, they're not being hypocritical. They're not merely pretending to walk with God, but they're actually walking with God, appropriately being real with their own struggles. So in your time of discussion along the way, your group leader might share with the group something that they're struggling with and ask for the group to pray. They're being open and honest in their own spiritual journey. And then the leaders have to be willing to be corrected. Followers should correct a leader if they go out of bounds scripturally. Number 4 is ask forgiveness, clear up relationship. When a leader really does wrong, the leader needs to clear up with the individual or the entire group if need be. So leaders are to clear up. And then participate in the ministry. Leaders are actually participating in the ministry. Now, their participation might look different from those that they're leading because we have different roles. But as a leader, as the lead pastor of Hope Church, I should never ask anyone in the church and anyone on any team to do something that I'm not willing myself to do. Now, it might not be the best use of my time to do that, but I won't ask, and I should not ask someone to do something I'm not willing to do as the leader. And then supporting the work financially. Leaders support the work financially. They're invested in the ministry. They're invested in the work that they're doing. And then at the top, number 7, leaders have known limits. They can't manipulate people into doing things. So leaders are to operate within scriptural bounds. So this is how all 7 of the heart attitudes really work together and flow, starting with number 1, ending up with number 7. So I hope this has been a help to you to see how these 7 heart attitudes fit together. We focus primarily this week on heart attitude 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7 are about how we relate on a larger scale as the church, as the community, whereas heart attitudes 1 through 4 are about personal relationships. So your group leader is now going to lead you in a time of discussion talking about these last 3 heart attitudes.